Oh no! Sneeze inside the helmet is the worst thing. Oh my god, this feels good. I don't know how many of you guys spent an entire day with a 3.5-month-old baby. But for anyone who has, can you imagine the difference between doing that and blasting through traffic on a motorcycle? Look, he just died and went to heaven. I am free. Oh, I am free. So a couple of things I wanted to bring up today as I make my evening escape out into the desert. I'm going to talk about the tires because I got new tires on here. They're the Dunlop American Elites. Yeah, I was going to do Michelin's. I think the Michelin Commander is what it was. I really don't know what triggered me at the last minute. Something did though. But I guess time will tell. But they're different. They're different than the Dunlop. I think it was the 407s that came on it. So primarily they feel softer, more comfortable over little ripples, like very little ripples. Not your typical bumps. I feel like I'm on a spring. I feel like a little more pointy. Oh no! Sneeze inside the helmet is the worst thing. Luckily it was pretty dry. It's flower season. So just the bike moves around more. I didn't realize how stiff the 407s were until I slapped these puppies on. But yeah, just more movement. I like the feel of the 407s better just off the bat. But if these give me a lot more life, because these 407s, they really didn't even make it to 5,000 miles. They were starting to crack on me, so they had a little bit left. But like 4,300 miles, I think it's 40, just about 44. And man, I don't ride this thing that hard, So I could see someone going through one of those tires at 3,000 miles easy if they really was playing into it a lot. So the tread life was unacceptable. I just can't do that. Other than that, the look, appearance-wise, they look like the shape of the tire is a little more round as opposed to, blunted and flattened out from the get-go. Could be. So they may turn in a little easier. I'm going to take it out into the corners today, see how it turns in, see if there's a difference. I mean, still a fat boy low, so. But it may make a slight difference in initial turn-in. Around town, I can't really feel much of a difference, but mainly they're softer, a little more bounce to them. There's no way a deal breaker though, guys. So I'm not telling you not to try this tire. I'll tell you what though, if the tread life is like 1,000 miles more than the 407s, then I would say yeah, it's a deal breaker. It's not worth it. One question you may have is, are Harleys fast? I know it's a bit of a ridiculous statement, a ridiculous question. So the answer is it depends. Depends on what you've ridden before. Depends on what Harley you're talking about. Depends on what bike you're currently riding outside of the Harley. Depends on how you ride it. Depends on whether you're talking about can they accelerate or are they actual fast, like speed fast. I think for all Harleys, alright, let me start with this. I think for any Harley that isn't heavily modified, and by heavily modified, look at Big Bear choppers. That's what I mean by heavily modified, because they can, I get the impression those can really run at speed. But for anything that's not heavily modified fast, like and determine how much speed a bike can carry safely and with stability, I would say no. No, definitely not. I really don't even know the top speed in this thing because, yeah, I've hit in like, what, 110, 115 or so, and at that time the bike just didn't feel right. Straight on the highway is fine, but it's not what it's meant to do. It's just not. You get the suspension, it's bouncing all over the place, it's soft. I mean, It's the wrong tool for the job. It's like, you know, the classic idiot in the SUV that's driving 100 miles an hour on the freeway. They have no idea what kind of tool they have. They basically bought the wrong one. So, you know, in terms of acceleration, if you're off the line, you know, these things are pretty impressive. I've only ridden the 103 and the 110, and 2 different 110s at that. Well, yeah, the 103 I rode in the touring. And yeah, that was in the Heritage too. So I rode a few 103s and a couple of 110s. I never rode one of the smaller engines, so I can't really comment on the Sportsters and the 1200, the 883. I can't really comment on that, but I get the impression the same holds for them, which is they're probably pretty quick off the line. And I don't know how this is going to pan out if you get a sport bike next to you, you know, especially one that's got a little bit of torque, a little bit of nuts on it. If I had my, you know, my Beamer next to me, I really don't know what would happen, to be quite honest, because that thing's really fast, 0 to 60. It's meant for, like, it's meant to be, well, have really fast acceleration, not so much carry a lot of speed with no fairing. So Harley is kind of the same thing. I mean, it's meant to blast you off the line. It's meant to put you ahead of traffic. And that's another reason why these bikes are pretty fun and, you know, well-purposed for the road. Because you get that kind of rush off the line, it does kick you. And it definitely is a woohoo moment. But, you know, you don't want to do 110. So, it's, you know, you're not going to get pulled over. Someone like me that's been pulled over 3 times already in the past few months, you know, the last thing I want is a bike that wants to do 150 miles an hour. I'd be in jail. Or dead, one of the two. It definitely has a good off-the-line start. You know, at 0 to 30, even 0 to 60 on this thing is, man, it's pretty quick. And I always make it a point to try to wave at the sport bike riders in this thing, because when I ride my sport bike, it's so funny the difference in the amount of waves you get from the cruiser market. I mean, it's clear bias. But yeah, I'd like to run it along with my BMW, or even like even my friend's double R, just for fun, you know. Just put them side by side, see if one clearly destroys the other in the first, you know, 100 feet or so. Because I'm sure this thing's got more low-end torque than even some of the, I don't know, outside of the KTM Duke or a bike like that. Especially in the first few thousand RPMs. I mean, it's got it all on the bottom. So I think when I say, you know, our Harley's fast, more practically speaking, let's talk about the sensation it gives you. Does it give you that? Does it give you that punch? Does it give you that giggle? You know, like that whoa. Like, you know, does it hurl you back? Does it make you say, wow, I wasn't ready for that? Yeah, this bike does. So I really hit it, it throws me back. It doesn't freak me out as much as the BMW if I really get in the higher RPMs, especially on the street. But it gives you that fun factor. And to me, when you ask if a bike is fast, and this comes, you know, with interpretation of the question, that's what a bike is fast. I think is it fast enough to make you grin, to put a smile on your face, and to open your eyes and make you respect it. Yeah, hey, this one is. It's fast enough for that. They'll both make you so much happier after taking care of a 3.5-month-old baby for an entire day. They'll both put a smile on your face, and they'll both make you want to pull off the throttle, at least on any public road I've been on. Yes, you have to take into account too, you know, the balance between the chassis and the engine itself too. I can say that this bike is seems a bit more unmatched than the BMW, because I think this bike would take me faster than the actual suspension can handle. I mean, clearly faster than the cornering clearance can handle. I've got to admit something to you guys. It's a video I made recently. Me and a buddy of mine were riding the bikes, and there was we each had a camera on our head. I never saw myself on this bike before. At least nothing more than like a quick picture that my wife took when I first got it. And I saw myself riding this thing, and Yeah, I knew the handlebars were low, but you know, given how lengthy I am, I'm not a giant, but I'm pretty lengthy. It just looked pretty awkward. It looked incredibly awkward. I was driving a bus. I definitely had a bus driver pose. I was like all propped up and my hands on my lap. Very strange. I mean, it felt fine in terms of a comfort standpoint, but I'm not gonna lie to you. You know, one big reason why I bought this bike is the appearance, because it just, to me, it just bleeds looks. I love it. I love how low it is, and the fat front end, and fat tire, and the darkness, all that stuff's good. But when I saw myself with those handlebars, man, talk about a wave of insecurity. I've been embarrassed on the road. As you can see, not to the point where I won't ride it, because I'm riding it now. But to the point that it triggered me to order bars like the next day. So in the meantime, what did I do? I took these handlebars and I rotated them forward. I did this last week. I rotated them so far forward. First of all, the cutout for the wires in the center of the bar and the bottom was way off kilter. I mean, the wires are like about to be sliced off by the cutout because they just weren't intended to be turned at that angle. And these actual grips were like pointing upwards because the bars just weren't designed to be at that angle. It took like a 5-mile ride and my wrists were about to fall off. So I go back home and I try to make a compromise, and still, it's not right. Yeah, I can feel it in my hands. They're still propped up more than they were before. And when I get off the bike, I'll show you the tires and I'll show you the bars. But they're still propped up more than they're meant to be. And it's not bad. I can handle a longer ride on this, but it's not quite right. But this is all insecurity. This is all how I envision how I look in the bike. And if I don't look cool on the bike, then, you know, obviously I'm a piece of crap. That's just the way it has to be. Well, we're all delusional. I think I've touched on this before. I think most of us look like idiots on our motorcycles. I mean, when I didn't ride a motorcycle, I kind of thought the same thing. I was like, look at this. What is this person doing? Especially with someone that was all suddenly in like severe getup with a lot of leather on, and like with the skull stuff, and you know, I mean, just looking like they're like trying to be as evil as possible. When we all know it's the person that is the most dangerous is the one that actually looks the most benign. That's usually the case. Usually they don't have to show it because there's so much to back it up. They're not insecure about it. But it's so funny how now that I'm on a motorcycle, I've become one of the people, to some extent, that I made fun of not so long ago. Just so concerned about how I appear on the bike. When in reality, I mean, I probably look like an idiot no matter what I do. So just have fun with it, you know? We're all exposed to it, we all do it. If you ride a cruiser, you're probably, I'm guessing you're more exposed to this. A little more controlled by your testosterone than those sport bike riders out there, because as a guy that rides both on the sport bikes, that getup, it just can't be cool to anyone. And I mean, unless you're really into MotoGP and it's part of your background, and maybe in Europe it's different, but in the US, that presence isn't there for us when we're growing up. So you know, you see someone in the outfit that is appropriate, the outfit that'll protect you, you know, taking corners at those speeds, not much to look at. So I'm gonna take a break. I'm gonna buy a bottle of wine, sit in one of these dirt piles somewhere, and cry about my own insecurity. Well, I'll tell you guys, this is the life. Cruise control on, riding around in the desert, no one's around, it's warm weather. This will calm any man or woman down. I don't care what you've been through that day. This can make it all right. The sound of the engine, that rumble, wind's blowing at you. It's a perfect amount of stimulation. If any of you have plugged into this little hobby here, I think you've won. You found one of the few things in life that is pretty special. There are others, of course, but this is one of them. Well, you can see the tire here. It's a tire, not much to look at. Dunlop here. I don't know if this is going to show in the light or in this light, but there's an American flag here. It says made in the USA. There's another kind of flag-like thing down here, right there. And there's another section that's hidden behind the pipe that's just got some stars on it in the shape of a flag. This is American Elite. It's 255.17. But yeah, it's a pretty solid American Pride tire. I mean, it's called American Elite after all. Tread pattern is a little different. You can see the lines of a jog in them, and the other one's had more of an angle. But you can see what I mean by the bars here. They're tilted forward, so if you step back, they're more lined up with the fork. Actually, they're tilted a little more forward. Before, they were really, really laid back, quite a bit. But you can see if I turn these forward anymore, the bars are pointing towards the sky, and I'm riding like this. Slightly awkward. But it feels pretty good right now. It's not too bad. Looking forward to the new bars. They should be, guessing, somewhere in this area. In terms of height, they could be right about shoulder length. And I think you don't need bars that high in this Fat Boy leg because the seat is so down. I don't know. And that's what I'm thinking, because as where the bars are now, I'm not well below my shoulders. And I'm 6'2", so you don't need bars, I think, that high in this bike, I don't think. Seats can matter too. The seat's higher and thicker, than you can handle a bigger bar or a higher bar, but once again, I don't want to be reaching for the sky. Oh man, it's nice out here. The ocean is not always where it's at.